Welcome to the Angry Nerd Podcast. My name is Arshawn Wade, aka the Angry Nerd. The Angry Nerd Podcast is taped in front of a live Facebook audience from my mom's basement. The Angry Nerd Podcast is brought to you in part by some bad life choices and a few shattered dreams. The Angry Nerd Podcast is made possible by money that my wife gives me from my SSI check, some chick named Joni, and proceeds from listeners like you. If you want to be one of the listeners that contributes to this show getting better and better, go to Cash App. My Cash App is $The Angry Nerd. Hey, once again, we don't do glorified internet begging. No. We have merch. Purchase one of the Angry Nerd Podcast t-shirts that comes in white or black. And also you can visit my sister page, which is Custom Tees by Arshawn, if you have a small business that's in need of some promotional t-shirts. So check me out, holler at me, and I will take care of you on all fronts. So tonight's topic is brought to you in part by the upcoming presidential election and also some sketchy things that I've been seeing on social media. The one that really got me this week was I saw a Trump supporter and just some random guy that he decided to run up on some young black kid and give him the third degree about what he was doing there and how you're supposed to protest. And look at me, I'm doing it the right way and I'm not being violent. And it got me thinking, how many of us actually know the history of Democrats and Republicans? We will go to war with each other on social media. We will accost one another in public because of a t-shirt or a bumper sticker with particular views that we don't agree with on the political side of the game. And I wonder how many people actually know what it is that they're fighting for, what it is that they're standing for. What do Democrats stand for? What do Republicans stand for? If these parties are both supposed to have the better interest of the people of America at large, best interests at heart, why do we have to have two separate parties? And it may be, gullible or naive of me to think that it should be very simple. It shouldn't be so difficult. And it also shouldn't be divisive. It seems like certain things we should be able to agree on as human beings, absent Democrat or Republican views. There's just certain human issues that we should be able to agree upon. The thing that bothers me is the fact that we will do violence to one another in the name of Democrat or Republican, and then we'll turn around and have something negative to say about Crips and Bloods when essentially it's the same type of energy. People do violence. I think greater violence. We've actually fought a war on this soil based on Democrat, Republican political stuff. GOP, the Grand Old Party, is it Whigs? Yeah, the Whigs, and all these other different political vehicles over the years. We have fought wars behind this stuff. And that's one thing for the country to go to war. But for common, everyday United States citizens to harm each other or berate one another based on one of these political views, that's disheartening. That's disheartening, and it's bullshit. Because at the end of the day, it's supposed to be about the betterment of the American people. All of the American people. So I wanted to bring a little bit of information tonight. Hopefully shed some light on this whole thing to illustrate how silly it is. See, and I have to start with the Democratic Party. Most people are prejudiced out the gate. Black dude, you got to be a Democrat. No, I actually don't subscribe to either of those two parties. But the Democratic Party is the oldest political vehicle that's still in use today. It's number one. It's the first one. January 8th, 1828. And it was originally the southern states were Democrats. And their views were things like limited government, state sovereignty. They opposed the national bank system and also high tariffs. A couple of these things I had to look up, like a tariff, which is a tax on imported goods into this country. They were opposed to high taxes on imported goods. And see, what that means is if we have high taxes on imports, that means we're going to be less likely to buy imported stuff and more likely to buy American-made stuff. So our businesses here in this country will theoretically should thrive because we're able to purchase these things at a cheaper price because they're made right here in America. So somewhere in the 1930s, what I found out is Franklin D. Roosevelt is that's the pivotal moment in history for politics as we know it in America. Because up until the early 1930s, the Democrats basically had the views of the Republicans today, which is very funny. But Franklin D. Roosevelt started promoting social liberalism, regulating the market economy, civil and political rights, and individual freedom. And mind you, Franklin D. Roosevelt was originally a Republican. The Republican Party came into place in 1854. Sorry, I'll put an extra 100 years on there. 1854. But after the Civil Rights Act of 1964, the core base of the Democrats shifted to the northern states. See, because the ideologies changed. And I think the impetus to that was Franklin D. Roosevelt. So then we get into the history of the Republicans just a little bit. The Republicans, who were formerly known as the GOP, the Grand Old Party, they came together in 1854, which is 36 years after the Democratic Party formed. And mind you, the Democratic Party formed under Andrew Jackson, which was a bunch of Southern slave owners and plantation owners and things like that. So the start of the Democratic Party were the people who were in favor of slavery and the promotion and the expansion of slavery into the American territories. So originally the Republicans were against the Kansas-Nebraska Act of 1854. That's how they formed. Abraham Lincoln was the catalyst to this party coming together. And their big thing was to repeal the Missouri Compromise, which was Missouri could hold slaves, and then they incorporated Maine into the Union, so that way they could continue to have the scales balanced on the political side as far as how many states were red and how many states were blue. And they were also against expanding slavery into the American territories. That seems very strange because I don't think Republicans of today hold the same views that they did at their impetus. So that's funny to me. But anyways, the Republicans consisted of Northern Protestants, factory workers, farmers, and ultimately freed slaves because they had similar ideologies, freedom and equality for all men. And once again, you see in 1932, on the Republican side of the game, Franklin D. Roosevelt, he starts pushing he's the catalyst behind the New Deal. And so now you have somebody who is essentially a Republican who is pushing for these anti-slave acts and the abolishment of slavery and working with abolitionists and things of that nature. And now you have bunny ears, the New Deal, which created after the Great Depression and the Civil Rights Act. See, after the Great Depression, and then you look 20 years after the Great Depression, after the Civil Rights Movement, then you see minorities who were at this time, Republicans shifting over to the Democratic Party. They shifted over to the Democratic Party because FDR shifted his allegiances from Republican to Democrat. Where am I going with this? I know that's what you're thinking. Where is he going with this? Well, here's the thing. Because when I was a small child, I thought, well, what if I wanted to win the presidential election as a Republican? And I know that all the Democrats are going to be voting for Democrats, and the Democrats have the numbers. Well, what if I turned around and said, I'm a Democrat, but all of my policies and all of my initiatives are Republican based? These people do not care about us. Their thing is money, power, policy that benefits them and their ilk. They do not care about the workers. They do not care about the trade unions. They don't care about any of the anybody who is not in the 1%. It's just not on their radar. When you think about tariffs and you think about things like that, you're like, how many of us on this, in the low income communities, middle class, upper middle class, even some of the higher end consumers? Because let's make no mistake about it. If you're not one of the real movers and shakers in the world, all your money, all your wealth, it just enables you to buy more things, more trinkets. So what that means is you're just a high-end consumer. You're essentially, socially, you're on the same level that I am. You just have a couple more coupons to buy things with. So when I see guys on Facebook arguing back and forth, calling each other expletives and whatnot, it's like, do you realize that this is all a game that is created by the power elite to benefit the power elite? And they're doing it on our backs in the name of collecting taxes. Our tax dollars go up. We have to pay more taxes. I will tell you, work overtime, work 60 hours. You'll end up paying so many more taxes that you don't get back at the end of the year. It's designed to keep the working man not getting out of the barrel. I hope that makes sense. You look at it, we're all trying to eke out a living, and we're all trying to get out of this tax bracket, and we're trying to get into the next one. We're running the rat race. But at the end of the day, we just can't seem to get ahead. Well, I'll tell you why we can't seem to get ahead. Because we won't get our heads out of our asses. We continue to think that the people who have historically messed us around, the working class, the people from the low-income communities, we continue to think that Democrat and Republican means something on our level of society. And it don't. It doesn't mean anything for the working class. Politics is a game for the ruling class. And as members of the working class, it should be our duty to figure out a way to dethrone these people, to unseat them. And if we are going to have a ruling class, why do we want a class of people to rule over us who have no idea what our plight is in society? Why do we identify with these people who don't view us as good enough to park their cars for them? How is it that we elect people who don't care about us, who don't care about our needs? You look at Ice Cube drafting, working with economists and statisticians to create the contract with Black America. I would encourage everyone in this country who lives below the poverty line, even middle class America, to draft a similar contract. Because what do we really receive from these people? They want our vote. They want us to participate in the illusion of inclusion. And what do we get in return? I don't want one of these cookie cutter answers from people like, oh, we have a military, we have a supreme military, we have the best military force in the world, and we have X, Y. This is a bunch of imaginary stuff that they have sold the American people. They have sold these votes. And what do you get in return? It's like believing in the tooth fairy. To run out and tell somebody I'm a Democrat or I'm a Republican, you may as well say, I believe in Santa Claus. It's actually ridiculous that I'll see people berate one another, belittle each other, chastise each other. I've seen plenty of black people chiding other black people for being Republicans. What difference does it make? Historically, all black people were Republicans once we got the right to vote. That's how we came into the game. These were the people who had our best interests at heart politically. Regardless to whatever their social views were, politically, they had black people's interests at heart. And as you can see, historically, the lines have been muddled so much that it's hard to tell what's a Democratic view and what's a Republican view. There are a couple of hard topics where you can create a distinction, like abortion and gun rights. But what about human rights? Who is trying to bring back community centers? Does anybody remember community centers when we were growing up? One of those places that's in the community, staffed by people who are of the community. There are a whole bunch of us who didn't get into some trouble that we would have otherwise gotten into because we were at the center. I don't see many of these establishments anymore. I see that they're trying to build more prisons. They're giving the Board of Prisons more money. They'll take the activities and the funding away from the low-income communities, and they will take all of these funds away from the children. Instead of creating a fund to send children to college, they're preparing to lock those children up. The same children that they have unfairly educated, the same children that they have unfairly kept under the poverty line, they're creating prisons so that they don't have to deal with these children. Well, here's a news flash for all those people who are in favor of building more prisons. You do realize that your tax dollars are still going to be clothing, feeding, and educating some grown-ass man in jail. Why would we not take that energy and use it and those resources and use them to do preventative maintenance? Let's use that money. Let's use those resources, those programs to do preventative maintenance in our communities. Let's use that money to start scholarship programs. Why don't we use that money to start making, at the very least, community college free? But you don't hear politicians speaking that way. Why? Because it doesn't sound like dollars coming in. It sounds like dollars going out. Because that's where their energy is focused. Their energy is focused on how can we continue to keep the American people baffled, blinded, and making decisions based on a fallacy. That it's all a shell game. What is it? 3-card Monty? That's what the electoral process is like. It's 3-card Monty. We're never going to win. If we continue to play their game, we're never going to win. So what is the point? What makes you so proud to say I'm a Democrat? What makes you so proud to say that I'm a Republican? What has the Republican Party done for you lately? What has the Democratic Party done for you lately? The next time you run out and put your sticker on Facebook and tell everybody, I voted. I'm a Democrat. I voted. I'm a Republican. Ask yourself that one very simple question. What has voting red or voting blue done for me lately? I have asked this question time and time again, and I never get a sufficient answer. I always get rhetoric, left-wing rhetoric, right-wing rhetoric. There's never a clear-cut, precise answer, ever. It's indoctrination, people. You have been conditioned and you have been indoctrined with red and blue, Republican or Democrat, the donkey or the elephant. Who you riding with, baby? Do you want to know who else has that same, what's the good term for it? Is it cognitive dissonance? Is that what we use, cognitive dissonance? You know who else has that same mental lapse when I ask them that question? Gang members. Why don't you like Bloods? Why don't you like Crips? I never get a definitive answer. Oh man, this been going on since the beginning of time. That's exactly how Republicans and Democrats sound when you ask them definitively. Why don't you like Republicans? Why don't you like Democrats? They want to take away our guns, man. I ain't going for that shit. Oh no. Hey, they got prod out my gold dead fingers. I think that we all want to have the ability to protect ourselves. Is that the only reason that you vote Republican? That seems pretty slim. That seems pretty thin, man. But oftentimes, these are the wafer thin answers that I get. I'm pro-choice. That's why I'm pro-choice. It's my body. If I want to have an abortion, I want to have it. I'm Democrat. Woo! Okay. That's it? You want to be able to have an abortion? That's the only reason that you're a Democrat? That just seems pretty thin. I think that if we can pull our head out of the mud, pull ourselves up out of the muck and the mire, that is the political process as we know it today, remove the proverbial mud from our eyes, we will be able to see clearly that these thumb-sucking troglodytes that are running the country have absolutely no clue as to what the real needs of the American people are. They do not move in the same circles that the regular, everyday, common man and woman in America move in. How many of us go to $1,000 a plate lunches, $10,000 a seat banquets? Not very many. But we will fight and die about Democrat and Republican. And at the end of that fight, the only thing that we can say is that I rep the red, I rep the blue. Sounds a whole lot like Crips and Bloods to me. No one has any idea why they're fighting. No one has any idea what they actually stand for. All I know is it's red on mine. Blue over here, homie. Aaron Vincent in the chat says, just another way to control. Division is control. I hope you heard me drop the bomb on you, Aaron Vincent. For my listeners on Podbean, Spotify, and YouTube, when you hear me talk about the chat, I'm talking to my good brothers and sisters on Facebook Live, because as I record this for Podbean, Spotify, and YouTube, I also broadcast live from Facebook, as my intro suggests. But you've raised a very, very valid point, Aaron Vincent, in that division, we've all heard this. divide and conquer. And until you read The Art of War or Love and Is it Love and Peace? Love and War? I forget. Leo Tolstoy. Anyway, until you read these tomes of antiquity, you don't really understand what that means. It's not, hey, I go this way, you go that way, and we're going to take them out. No, you divide a group of people amongst themselves, and then you conquer them. Their mentality is divided. Their values are divided. It is all a tool of control. Because here's the thing. In feudal times, the king had to keep the peasants fighting. He had to keep the nobles infighting. Because if we ever get together and have a collective thought, hey, it's more of us than it is of them. Come on out of there, Castle King. Come on out of there. It won't be long before the masses are marching on Washington again, and in a very different fashion. Come up out of there and give us our money. Come up out of there, give us free health care. We pay for it anyway. You're taking our taxes. I can't get free education. I can't get free health care. And then this is where they divide us. The people who already have access to that wealth. Oh, you just want a handout. You just want something for free. No way, damn it. I want what I paid for. The taxes that I put into this country every year. I want a return on said investment. That's business. This is a capitalist society. How many Democrats or Republicans have gotten a return on their investment in this country? I'll wait. Because when you think about it in those terms, we haven't gotten anything from these people. We've gotten our blood pressure up. We've gotten our stress level elevated collectively because we're sitting on the edge of our seat wondering if our horse is going to come in first. And the horse comes in first. January 1st, 2021. What is that horse going to do for you? Are you personally going to benefit from any policy, from any initiative enacted by that horse? I'll tell you, in my 35 years, no. There has not been one Republican or Democratic candidate who has done anything to better the Wade family. The Wade family hasn't benefited one way or another from a Democratic or a Republican president. Excuse me. And in my lifetime, I've been through Reagan, Daddy Bush, Clinton, son Bush, Obama, and now Donald Trump. So there have been 6 presidents in my lifetime. Can't tell you one way that I've benefited from any of them. Even the first black president, I didn't get a door prize even when we had a black president there. I remember being criticized because I wasn't particularly happy about having a black president. Because my question was, what are his politics? What does he stand for? What policies does he stand to enact? I don't care that he's black. If he's black, but he has racist policies, a lot of damn good that does. I don't care who's been the president. Those of us who come from the low-income communities, we don't win. When are we going to get someone who says, look, the people are hurting financially, economically, socially. Politically, these people are suffering. What are we going to do to alleviate that suffering? I'll tell you what we need. What we need is somebody who doesn't give a damn about Democrat or Republican. He just cares about people. I don't hear anyone run on that platform. The love of people. I have found out in my personal life, there's only so far that I'm going to go in a company as a manager, as a supervisor, climbing the ladder. I realize God's simple truth because I care about people. There are many people in positions of authority who are sociopaths. A sociopath is someone who doesn't have empathy, someone who doesn't have feelings. And I've learned that a lot of your people in the higher echelons of society are sociopaths. They don't look at us as people. They don't look at us as somebody's dad, someone's brother, someone's son. They look at us as numbers. And there's a part of me that's okay with that if you are going to kick in. Maybe that's a little too hood for some of my listeners. Break bread. Maybe if there's someone who is actually going to say, listen, we are going to turn around and we're going to bless the American people because this country has lived high off of the hog for many years, off of the backs of the American people. But that doesn't happen, does it? The good brother Chris Soros says, U.S. versus elite. That's the real fight. We so mad right now, we attacking each other while they run the country to shit. To suit them. Chris Soros, I agree 100%. It's about the elite maintaining power. It's about the elite promoting policies that they benefit from. I don't want to get into the conversation about Donald Trump not paying taxes. As we saw at the first presidential debate, when Biden brought that up, Trump one-upped him, didn't he? He said, yeah, I took advantage of the tax laws that you and Obama created. Whoa, wait a minute. How many of us knew that? How many of us knew that? I had to tip my hat off to President Trump because that was a power move. But do you see what I'm saying? We loved Obama so much. We chide President Trump for not paying taxes or taking advantage of tax laws. These are laws that the guy that we loved so much put in place so that someone who has as much money as Donald Trump has gets to take advantage. How many small business owners out there could benefit from a tax break? Did you get it? Have you gotten that tax break yet? Here's the problem, American people. The person who will say, well, it's your fault for not knowing how to take advantage of it. Here's where I say, stupid. It shouldn't be hidden. It should not be hidden. I shouldn't have to find it. It should be there. If these people are for right, if these people have our best interest at heart, we shouldn't have to find tax laws. They should be brought forthright for people who need it more anyway. These things should be brought to the forefront and say it should be broadcasted just like the $48 million that they spent on ad revenue to slander and smear each other during the presidential campaign. Take that $48 million and put ads out there advertising the tax laws that small business owners should be able to take advantage of so that they can stay afloat during these troubled times with the pandemic, so that 43% of small businesses wouldn't be going belly up right now and projected not to return. How about that? What if we did that? What if the United States government was 100% transparent and they didn't hide these things? Oh, well, you have to get an attorney. Why do I have to get an attorney? I pay taxes to these people every year. If these are the people who stand for the people, why do they not tell me about it? Because they're not for the right things. They want me and my good brothers down here in the low-income communities to stay fighting over Democrat and Republican while they take their private jets and eat their caviar and their escargot, and they ride around in their Italian shoes that cost more than my car payment and my insurance combined. That's a problem. And it's disheartening that we can't collectively see that it's a problem. We would rather stay fighting and bickering with one another right here in the same community, right here next door to each other, in the Walmart parking lot, like I saw in a couple of videos. People want to harm people because they're Trump supporters. Well, they have just as much of a right to be Trump supporters as you do to be a Biden supporter or a non-supporter of anyone. That's one of the chief tenets in this country. Liberty, justice for all. Remember? But we're beating each other up in Walmart parking lots. We're honking at each other and giving each other the finger because of a bumper sticker. To be a part of something that doesn't even promote our best interest. To represent something that doesn't represent us. And at this point, we live in the information age. We have a computer in our palm. We hold a computer, as my good friend Dylan Brackley likes to say. Got a fucking computer right there in our hands, Arshawn. I love that he says that, because it spurred the thought for me. Any question that I have, I can find it. And that's all I want to do here, is I want to get the conversation started. Hopefully I say something that stirs some juices in somebody's head, that formulates a question that I haven't formulated yet. Hopefully it spurs another thought in someone else's head that gets to a solution as to how we get these wicked people out from over us. And at the very least, because I know the American people have grown very comfortable with having these folks make decisions for us, but at the very least, we put pressure on these parties to where we get things that we need. We have socioeconomical needs that are not being met in the land of the free and the home of the brave. Talk about that issue. How many veterans do you pass by on the freeway who are holding a sign on the off-ramp? In the land of the free and the home of the brave. How many? And you want to tell me about Democrat or Republican? It doesn't matter who's in office. We got men and women who fought for this country, and they are reduced to panhandlers near the on-ramp or off-ramp of your nearest freeway. How does that happen? We have the worst pandemic since what? The Spanish flu? The bubonic plague? We're talking medieval times, guys. We have the worst pandemic we've seen in our lifetime. And the most successful country in the world gave us $1,200. $1,200 to last for 8 months, I guess. And when you look at other countries who the powers that be have told us are beneath us, look at how well they take care of their citizens. You know how many people are jobless right now? The unemployment rate is through the roof. The unemployment rate is going up. Crime's going up. Hell, I was a victim of a crime today. Someone stole my clothes out of the washer at the laundromat. Laundry got a little bit behind. I said, hey, I'll take them to the laundromat and I'll wash them at the laundromat. I didn't file a report because, like I said, I care about people. I love people. And I thought to myself, man, that was probably some homeless guy who looked at me and said, man, he looks like he's about my size. I'm going to give me a couple pair of jeans out the washer. Chalk it up to karma. Probably some bogus stuff I did back in the day came back on me. Speaking of karma, what's going to be the karma that comes back on the United States government for not taking care of its people? We love to talk about these people as if they're infallible, as if they're perfect. I hear people talk about President Trump as if he's Jesus Christ. I listen to people talk about Joe Biden like he's the second coming. This is supposed to be a Christian country, and we put all of our faith in these guys who inevitably fail us. These dudes fail us time and time again because they are not for the right things. They don't care about us. They don't care about our well-being. They don't care about our progression as human beings in this country. So why do we continue to support either party? I think that the American people need a shift, a paradigm shift. That's what we need right now. We need some totally new ideas. We need a totally new system. And we have to stop being afraid of doing something new, doing something different. We continue to participate in this bipartisan political process, and we really don't have to. I don't care if you want to say Democrat or Republican. Make them do something. Make them do something. Make them give you something. They just get your vote just because you pride yourself on being a Republican or pride yourself on being a Democrat. So they just get your vote. That's not how we do waitresses. Oh, they don't just get a tip. They have to have exemplary service, customer service skills in order to get that tip. But these people, we are that critical of somebody who brings us coffee. We're more critical of the girl that brings us coffee than we are of the man who runs the free world. That's a serious problem. That's a problem, and we need to correct it. I can't do it by myself. I'm just one dude, one voice, 30 or so followers, about 15 loyal listeners. But what we can do is spread the word. And as the youngsters say, keep that same energy. When we go to the polls, I'm not telling you not to vote. What I'm saying is I would hold my vote hostage. Collectively, And I would tell my friends to hold their votes hostage till we get people up there who are willing to do what we need done. Who says that just because it's November, we got to pick somebody? We'll hold our stuff until we come up with some policy, get with the bright minds among us, draft a contract, draft a plan, put together some ideas, put them in front of the folks, and you're going to do this, or we're not going to give you a vote. We ain't giving nobody a vote. America was founded upon gangster activity. And I think collectively we need to get back to that gangster mentality. In this respect, I don't vote for you unless you're going to do something for me. If you're not going to do something for me, you don't get my vote. Simple and plain. Doesn't mean I'm voting for the other guy. I'm just not going to vote. And I encourage Democrats and Republicans to do that. We don't get no votes unless you do something for us. Something that we can see, something that we can feel, something that we can touch. Do something for us. You don't just get my vote because I want somebody sitting in that seat. What have you done for me lately? In the words of Janet Jackson. Hey, I don't have all the answers. I don't have all the questions. Not the smartest dude. But I recognize that something is wrong. I know when something's wrong. I know when something's funky. And I'm telling you, this Democrat-Republican beef amongst the common people of the United States of America is funky. It stinks, and I don't like it. Hey, thank you guys for listening. My name is Arshawn Wade, a.k.a. The Angry Nerd. Peace.